Hey, Laserdisc gang and horror fans, Jason Seacrest here. I'm a big fan of the show and tell type videos, right? There's nothing really special about them. It's basically just an adult version of, hey, look what I've got. But I enjoy the movie ones because, one of two things happens, one of three things happen. I either see something in that list that the presenter's giving me that I've never watched before, I've never gone to a movie, I've never seen it at home. I'm like, wow, I gotta check that out. That's happened plenty of times. Or I'm reminded of a movie that I may have seen once or on TV only. I'm like, wow, you know what? I'm going to check that one out again. A good example of that's Wishmaster. I only ever saw Wishmaster on television. Wanted to check it out again and was not only blown away by the movie, but the AC3 soundtrack on Laserdisc was just insane, right? So that type of thing happened. So I kind of wanted to start doing that here. Again, nothing special about show and tell, right? It's like here's what I've got. Look what I've got. But maybe it'll give you an idea. And so this is the first of my Shocktober series here. I do love horror. I love Halloween. I love October, and I try to line up movies that I'm going to watch throughout the month. It's tougher than you think when you've got kids. I've got a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and that's kind of hard. And actually, the very first movie we're going to start off with is Charlie Brown's The Great Pumpkin. But that's not going to be shown here today. But I gotta include them on that as well. But the movies that I'm going to watch, they can't watch, right? So here we go. Enjoy. The first up is Phantasm, right? This was released in 1979. It's the first of 5 movies. I haven't seen them all. I've only ever seen this one on television, and that was back in the 80s. So this is going to be a treat. Now, this was recently sealed. I recently opened that to look into it. This is the widescreen collector's edition, so there are some special features on it. There's the director's commentary. There's the director's interview on there. I think the audio was remixed. I think was it say that? Yeah, it was newly remixed stereo surround track. So that's going to be awesome too. If you've never seen this movie, if you've never seen this movie, the plot is basically that a small town's mortician is killing people and then reanimating the dead. Now that seems pretty straightforward, right? Well, throw in some dwarves from another dimension and you're on a ride, okay? This is a freaky movie. It really is. So if you haven't seen it, check this out. I got this one several months ago and I didn't watch it because I'm like, I'm going to wait for October. This has to be my first one. Has to be my first one. So if you get a chance, check it out. Next up, Evil Dead's Army of Darkness. That's right. This is the third in the original trilogy. If you've not seen the other 2 Evil Dead movies, Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2, you really do need to see that because it'll give you all the backstory for this one. This is a horror comedy, and it wraps up the trilogy by sending Ash, the protagonist, back in time to defeat the Deadites, and it's just one joke after another, with great practical effects and some good horror mixed in there too. But it's not really intended to be a scare-orama, right? If you know the series, you know what I'm talking about. But this is a fantastic movie. This is the letterbox version, CLV, and I'm a huge fan of it. This says it all. Trapped in time, surrounded by evil, low on gas. It just says it all, right? I mean, you can't get any better than that. Check it out if you've never seen it. But again, watch the first 2 movies if you've never seen this one, okay? Third on the list, Nightmare on Elm Street. This is the letterboxed edition, CLV. I really enjoyed Nightmare on Elm Street, at least the first few movies. This is one of many, and they don't get better. But maybe except for Dream Warriors, that's a great installment, or a great addition to the installment. But this takes the traditional slasher film and puts an interesting spin on it. So the antagonist here, Freddy, stalks a group of high school kids through their nightmares and attempts to kill them through their nightmares. Now, there's a whole backstory that gets built for this. I won't go into it. Watch the movie, right? But it really does explain who Freddy is, where he comes from, how he gets his power, etc., etc. Johnny Depp is in this before he was Captain Jack, right? He was a victim of Freddy. So yeah, it's a fantastic movie. It's a pretty decent series all around, just for fun. I'm not a fan of the traditional slasher films. I'm going to be honest with that. I'm probably going to offend you Friday the 13th fans out there, but I'm not. It's like a guy with a knife. Now I realize that Jason eventually becomes kind of a supernatural character. That's cool. I'm glad they took it in that direction, but still, guy with a hatchet or a guy with a knife. Guy with a glove with blades. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Fourth, House. This is the widescreen edition. And the cast on this is spectacular. You got the great William Catt, who greatest American hero, right? He's been in other stuff too, but come on. That's like saying, oh yeah, William Shatner's been in a bunch of stuff. Captain Kirk, right? William Catt, George Wendt from Cheers, and Richard Mole, who was Bull Shannon in the Night Court series, plays the antagonist. This movie, Ding Dong, You're Dead, again, kind of says it all right there. This really is a good, scary movie. And I saw this in the theaters, and a quick story, it was the only time I think this has ever happened, but the theater hired, maybe he was an actor, maybe not, but he hired a guy to dress as the character that Richard Mole plays. And I'm not going to tell you what that is. If you've never seen this, I don't want to give away the spoiler, right? But then he was walking through the theater and scaring people. And that was pretty cool. You know, it's never happened before when I went to see a movie. I saw this with the family in the 80s. But yeah, it's more than just, don't think of this as just a haunted house movie, because it does get deeper than that. And Richard Mole's character, when it's revealed and who he is, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. So this movie, it's a good shocker. It's got some funny moments in it too, but I wouldn't really classify this as horror comedy. It's got some really good practical effects and some good shock value to it. So if you haven't checked it out, this is one of 4, I think. There's House 2, House 3. I think House 4. None of them can compare to this one. This is my favorite. So yeah, check it out. Last on the list, it's not a Laserdisc, because this movie came out after the Laserdisc format shoved off its mortal coil, so to speak. But we're talking about The Thing, the 2011 release. Now, stay with me. I know. It's not a reboot though, right? So, spoiler alert. I'm going to stop right here. Spoiler alert. Shut it off. If you haven't seen this, I'm recommending it for the reason I'm about to tell you. Still here? Okay. It's a prequel. And if you already know that, then you know this is worth watching. I went with this. I saw this with my dad. And we'd seen the original, he brought home the original Thing to our home theater on Laserdisc, I think. This would have been the early 80s. And I was 9 or 10 years old, and that movie scared the hell out of me. And to this day, The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, is still one of my favorite top 10 movies, top horror movie. It's just a fantastic movie. I don't care what the critics said back in the day. They're morons, right? That movie is fantastic. The practical effects are fantastic. Kurt Russell is fantastic. So when this came out, I was the same way. I'm like, a reboot? Come on, there's nothing wrong with Carpenter's The Thing, right? But we went and saw it, and then at the end, there was a big reveal. I went, oh, my jaw dropped. Like, oh my God, that's freaking cool. That's awesome. That is so totally awesome. So yeah, then it just changed. Once I realized that they weren't trying to reboot and remake Carpenter's The Thing, they were tying it in as a prequel, then I was okay with it. And I'm like, all right. So, yeah, it uses computer effects, but do you think the Marvel movies could pull off what they did these days without computers? Come on. That argument's tired. That argument starts, oh, they're using CG. Yeah, that's the newest technology. Back in the day, I seem to recall hearing about how James Cagney, the old gangster films, they actually would hire sharpshooters to shoot. Like there was a scene, I can't remember the movie now, but James Cagney's out the window and somebody's shooting at him, and you see the bullets going on the wall, right? They're ricocheting off the wall. My understanding is those were real. And they hired a sharpshooter, and Cagney went like, I ain't doing that again. And so then he started, using blanks. That's the story that I heard anyway. So I'm sure there were guys back then going, oh, you're using fake bullets, you're using blanks. What's wrong with you? That's not realistic. Okay. Yeah, they're using computer graphics, but they're pulling off a whole lot more that you can't always do with practical effects. And none of the movies that we all enjoy, the Marvel movies, in particular, you're not going to be able to get away with practical effects. Captain America from the 90s? Okay. The Hulk Returns from the 80s, which I love. I'm not knocking that at all, but come on, it's all practical effects on that. So anyway, if you haven't checked it out, this is a good movie. It is a good watch. Knowing that it's not a reboot, it's a good watch. So yeah, that wraps up my movies for October, for Shocktober. Hopefully you got an idea there of something you haven't seen and you want to see. Share with us your movies, and we'll go from there. So happy Halloween, happy October, happy Shocktober. And as Sam says, keep them shiny, y'all. Bye.
Är det någon som sett min tvål? Skål!